Evening and a warm Good evening and a warm welcome to everyone here from Talking Films Online, TFO for short. TFO was founded almost on a whim by Professor Nikhila and myself in June 2020 during the lockdown. Since then, TFO has had uninterrupted discussions on films from all over the world every Saturday at 9 p.m. on Zoom. It is a group of film scholars, researchers, students, teachers, and anyone passionate about cinema. It has been our practice to invite people to select and lead the discussion of the chosen film, which we watch in our own time and place. On some occasions, filmmakers, editors, and cinematographers have also joined our sessions. Aparna Sen, Girish Kastarvalli, Adur Gopalakrishnan, to name a few. We have held film festivals such as East European, Iranian, Women Cinema, and others. In the month of June each year, to celebrate our anniversary, we hold a smartphone short film making contest for students and also organize a lecture series in collaboration with colleges and university departments. This evening, we will be discussing Money Calls, DUVIDHA, and leading the discussion is Eshan Sharma. Eshan is a writer, TEDx speaker, and a heritage activist. He is the founder of one of India's leading history collectives, Karma, the Heritage Exploration Initiative. He likes to call himself a historian in training. A graduate in history from Delhi University, he is currently pursuing a master's degree in Indian history from MSU Baroda. His academic interests span film, history, and the interconnections between the two. Eshan has emerged as a prominent voice on issues related to history and heritage in India. He has worked on the women's representation in new wave Hindi films. He is also the author of The Teacher I Never Met. Welcome, Eshan, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Geeta ma'am and Nikhila ma'am, for organizing something like Talking Films Online, because this is an important collective and an important platform to discuss cinema, to discuss related disciplines to cinema. Because cinema, again, as I say, it is interconnected with so many disciplines: history, philosophy, uh, sociology, and others. So it is indeed an important forum to discuss cinema. Today we have chosen Money Call and his film Duvidha. I am 23 at the moment, and people of my age really don't know Money Call as far as I have spoken to my friends and people of my age. So this is also an opportunity for me to introduce Money Call to my generation of people, because that's what I am more interested in, to introduce good cinema to my generation at least. So Manikal is considered to be a pioneer of the new wave movement in Indian cinema. And after graduating from the Film and Television Institute of India, which was earlier the Film Institute, where he was mentored by Ritvik Ghatak and later assumed a teaching position, he initiated his cinematic journey with a film called Uski Roti in 1969. The film not only secured the Filmfare Critique Award for Best Movie, but also marked the onset of a prolific career that spanned many films, about 20 films, and that garnered him a total of 4 Filmfare Critics Awards. In 1974, he received the prestigious National Film Award for Best Direction for the film Duvidha that we are discussing tonight, showcasing his prowess in filmmaking to the world. And subsequently, in 1989, we have another film by him called, which again won the National Film Award for his documentary called Siddheshwari, another brilliant documentary to watch. His filmography, I don't need to list, but just for the sake of listing, his filmography include Uski Roti in 1970, in 69-70, Ashad Ka Ek Din is 71, Duvidha 73, The Nomad Puppeteer 74, Chitrakathi in 82, 77, then Satya Se Utta Aadmi Rising from the Surface 1980, Arrival 1980, Drupad, which was a documentary in 82, so on and so forth. Siddheshwari came in 89, then Nazar and Egbain Jeen Andar, which is I'm No Other, in 2002, which was a documentary, and in 2005, A Monkey's Raincoat. These were the films that he made. According to a film journalist called Partha Chatterjee, Kaul had the gift of creating emotion on screen simply by choosing the right lens and the right kind of light, natural or artificial, doesn't matter. He would, in his charming manner, say that actors always try to do too much in front of the camera because they forget the other elements in the frame, which is light, choice of lens, other visual objects in the frame, not to forget incidental sound that happens in the environment. The space thereby created through this harmony or the lack of it were what made it so eloquent in Manikal's cinema. And as a narrative craftsman, he positioned women at the forefront, skillfully illuminating complex relationships with a subtle touch. And my research these days focus on the representation of women in Indian cinema. So for me, the first point to begin my conversation on cinema is always Money Call, because as many consider Money Call and Kumar Shahani to be the only two truly experimental filmmakers of the 70s and 80s, or even today, if you see, they are the pioneers of the so-called Prayog ka cinema, ho ya you call it the experimental or the new wave or the art cinema. These were the people who really challenged the norms of filmmaking at that time. So his debut film Uski Roti, we can't go directly to discuss Duvidha. One has to go through Uski Roti and then move to Duvidha. So Uski Roti stands as a seminal work in the new Indian cinema or the new Indian new wave cinema. Renowned for its revolutionary departure from conventional Indian cinema techniques, forms, and narratives, it is hailed as one of the early examples of formal experimental films. As I said, Uski Roti narrates the tale of Balo, a woman hailing from a village in northern India whose entire existence is entwined with tradition. Her spouse, Sucha Singh, works as a bus driver, passing by the village each day but only visiting her on Tuesdays. The rest of the week is consumed by drinking and card games with his colleagues. Balo walks 2 miles daily to deserted bus stop to deliver lunch to her husband. If you remember, if you see the trailer on YouTube, you'll find, Sucha Singh to Roti Khale. This is kind of the dialogue that was used in the trailer. I still remember that dialogue. It doesn't leave my mind whenever I think of Uski Roti. Sucha Singh le Roti Khale. Roti se naraz na ho. These are the kind of dialogues that listen in the film. And however, one day when she is delayed due to her 14-year-old sister being assaulted by a village boy, Sucha Singh, angered by his wife's action, refuses to accept the meal, and that's when this dialogue takes place. In Kaul's own words, Uski Roti was a projection of women's fantasies. So he was more interested in looking in the philosophy or the psychology of women. And Dora Malvi and her work on the male gaze truly, this when I was researching, I was more interested in seeing how the male gaze is used in projecting a woman like Balo, for example, in this film, and other characters in his other film, be it Deshwari, be it Raisa Padamsi in Duvidha. Duvidha now in 1973 was Manikal's third film. His first film in color, if you know. Duvidha was produced by the National Film Development Corporation, NFDC, and the National Music Dance Center. The film stars Ravi Menon and Raisa Padamsi in lead roles. It was later renamed as Paheli by the renowned actor, producer, filmmaker Amol Palekar, with Shah Rukh Khan in the lead, if you remember that film. My generation of film watchers, film goers, cinema goers would recognize the later, the new 2000s Paheli than this Duvidha. And on a shoestring budget, called film Duvidha with a minimal crew, borrowed 16 Kodachrome reels from the painter Akbar Padamsi, and enlisted a novice cinematographer. The village's feeble electricity supply posed a major challenge for adequate lighting while the shooting was on. Despite these limitations, despite these shortcomings, the film's visual presentation is intricate, if you see, and often striking, different from other films of that time. And Kaul's highly praised film, this Duvidha, commences with somewhat flat Gordanian, Godard का अगर आप सिनेमा देखें तो Godardian shot featuring a woman adorned in a red sari positioned against a white wall, Varai Sapadam si, against the wall. She gazes resolutely into the camera while the soundtrack is adorned with the high-pitched Rajasthani ethnic vocals, Rajasthani traditional music. The film draws its inspiration from a Rajasthani folktale documented by author and folklorist Vijay Dan Detha. The storyline unfolds with a poignant simplicity, marked by a bitter undertone, and on the day of their marriage, a child a child bride finds herself abandoned by her husband, a bania, a merchant of Rajasthan. He rationalizes his departure by explaining, "Perhaps you do not know, but an auspicious time for trade will not return for 7 years. 7 साल तक कोई इतना अच्छा धंधे का समय नहीं आएगा." Outlining his extended business plans, and in his absence, when the merchant is gone, a spirit simply identified as a bhoot or a ghost assumes the guise of the banya, seemingly leads a contented married life with a deserted wife. Tensions now escalate in the film when she becomes pregnant, and the news reaches the miser, prompting his return to confront his spectral doppelganger. Upon assuming the physical attributes of the husband, who, in a decision to establish a new business, opts to live separately from his wife for 5 years, the ghost promptly reveals his true identity to the bride. Now, this astonishing honesty becomes the central conflict of the film if you watch it carefully, presenting a significant challenge to the conservative audience who are not very familiar with this kind of arrangements in any marriage, where a host is taking care of the wife while the husband is out doing business. Particularly in India, it's unacceptable for the majority of the audience. To them, the idea that a wife would willingly engage in a romantic or physical relationship with a ghost rather than patiently waiting for her husband poses a transgression against entrenched patriarchal values which are ingrained in the society. Now, this unconventional choice challenges societal norms, causing discomfort among those who fail to comprehend why she would make such a decision. For the bride, however, the matter is deceptively simple. She opts to embrace the love offered by the spectral entity, one that makes her feel desired, rather than adhering to the rules of an unjust system that perpetuates her oppression or her rejection by the husband in search for a livelihood or whatever reasons that may be. So, in a moment of unapologetic rebellion, the bride openly ridicules such societal norms in the film, stating to the parents a daughter is a garbage heap that must be thrown out. कि एक कूड़े का ढेर है जिसको बाहर फेंक देना चाहिए. This defiant act becomes a powerful symbol of a rejection of a system that seeks to confine and subjugate her, choosing instead to prioritize her own agency and desires in the film or in the story. So, in three of his films, this is the basic structure, the plot of the film. In three of his films, female protagonists are depicted in a state of anticipation, of waiting across different time and space settings, whether it is Balo in Uski Roti or Mallika in Ashad Ka Ek Din, ya Lachi in Duvidha. The theme of waiting is a recurring motive in Manikol's films. So, during a conversation with film researcher Arvind Das, who did his PhD from JNU a few years ago, the director shed light on the significance of this waiting motive in his films. And it's rather interesting, explaining that this waiting takes us away from experimental or empirical time, when even 1 minute can be an hour. It can't be quantified in a way. He further shared that during his learning phase in classical music, he excelled in the art of Drupad. He excelled as a Drupad singer. He keenly felt this temporal distortion, particularly in the interval between Sam and Visham. And if you know, uh, Mani Kaul was a trained Drupad singer, and I was speaking to a very famous Drupad singer, Drupad vocalist from Pune, where he mentioned when he was giving interview at the Drupad Kendra in Bhopal. At that time, Bhopal Drupad Kendra, where Dagar Sahab, Bade Ustad Ji, Ustad Bahauddin Dagar, and others were teaching Drupad. One of the panelists on that interview panel was Mani Kaul, and he was considered to be one of the greatest pioneers or the greatest exponents of Dagar Bani or Dhruvad. Likewise, he was again interested in another form of art. He was interested in miniatures, Mughal miniature paintings, Indian miniature paintings traditions, and I think he also wrote a lot of papers, a lot of discussions on Indian miniature paintings later in his life. And that reminds me, I want to just show you some paintings that, that when we talk of Mani Kaul, that always strikes up. I'll just show you one of the paintings of much known. Okay, let me try and share the screen. Please let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I have tried enlarging the image. This is a painting, as you know, by none other than Amrita Shergill, one of the biggest names of modern Indian painting. This is a woman sitting quietly. And similarly, Mani Kaul employs this painting onto screen as this with Raisa Padamsi. So if you compare this photograph, the still from from the film, and this painting, these are strikingly similar. And somebody was saying somewhere in some of the conventions on film history that you can take any frame of Akira Kurosawa and frame it on the wall. Nobody can distinguish whether it is a painting or a still from a film. Similarly, if you choose to take a screen grab of Mani Kaul's films and put it up on the wall, nobody can distinguish if it is a painting from, say, Akbar Padamsi, or Raisa's father is Akbar Padamsi, and who gave the 16 Kodachrome camera to Kaul to. This is again one of the paintings of Amrita Shergill, and if you recall this clearly from, I'll show you a frame from Uski Roti which looks exactly similar to this, and I think this is by Pandol or something online that you can also look into. This is the frame that I want you to see. This is from Uski Roti. So similar composition, similar space given in the frame of a film as in the painting. So yeah. So Satyajit Ray, who was one of the pioneers of Indian cinema, and he remains one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. Uh, he expressed strong criticism towards Duvidha and the style of Mani Kaul's cinema. And upon its release, upon Duvidha's release by Film Division, in his essay called Four and a Quarter, which delves into contemporary Hindi directors, Ray vehemently criticized the film's experimental elements, ranging from its use of patterned colors to its stylized gestures. He concluded that Kaul's impatience with conventional narrative leads him to a visual style replete with cliches of another sort. Ray was particularly appalled by Kaul's aversion to strong situations and full blooded characters. Ray perceived this as a plain lack of interest in human beings, highlighting a fundamental with Kaul's artistic approach. If you go into into the history of Mani Kaul and his training as a filmmaker at the Film Institute, he was one of the early students and one of the few students that Ritvik Ghatak taught in his very short stint at the Film Institute. He taught about 13 students, among whom was Mani Kaul, Kumar Shahani, a little bit of, very short, for a very short while, Sham Benegal. Then Adur Gopalakrishnan was there. and of course Subhash Ghai, the very famous filmmaker, all were taught by Ritvik Ghatak, and most of them did not follow what Ritvik Ghatak's cinema represented. It's another kind of stylized gestures, as Ray would call it, was there in Ritvik Ghatak's films. In Money Calls film, you do not see politics coming along on the screen as apparent as, say, in Girish Kasarwalli's films or in Adur Gopalakrishnan films or in Ritvik Ghatak's film, be it Neke Dhakatara or Subarnarekha, or even because Ritvik Ghatak played with history. His discipline history really showed up when he talked about the Partition trilogy or other films. Similarly, in Satyajit Ray's films, you have another kind of philosophy of history coming along, and even in Mrinal Sen's work, you have the political taking the forefront of the cinema. In Money Call cinema, we don't see that political so apparent, and not so much indulging with the social issues of that time as other new wave cinema address. Like, for example, if you take, you don't see the question of caste and class so much in Money Calls film, as far as I am concerned. Or if you compare it with Shyam Benegal's Ankur or Mandi or Bazaar by other filmmakers, Govind Nihalani's work or Ketan Mehta's work later on, this is very different. As the New Yorker puts it, Duvidha is a story of women's sexual freedom. Her choice is a silent yet radical defiance of the prevailing patriarchal order. And my interest is also in this film because of the fact that at the same time, around the same year, 1973, the highest grossing film of that year was Bobby by Raj Kapoor. In his inaugural leading role, Rishi Kapoor, the son of Raj Kapoor, shares the screen with Dimple Kapadia, who makes her debut in the film. And it was, as you know, produced by Raj Kapoor's RK Films. The film set a new trend, garnering immense popularity and inspiring numerous imitations of the same formula later on. It introduced a genre of teenage romance to Hindi cinema, featuring a backdrop of wealth disparity that became a hallmark of the narrative, where either the girl is super rich or the boy is super rich, and the other counterpart is poor, comes from a humble background or something like that. Bobby, in that sense, starts as a tale of solitary, affluent youth portrayed by Rishi Kapoor. But as the narrative unfolds, the focus gradually shifts towards the character of Bobby, portrayed by Dimple Kapadia. And this newly found empowerment of women becomes increasingly pronounced post Bobby in Hindi cinema, with women essentially assuming the role of the hero in the three subsequent films directed by Raj Kapoor, be it Satyam Shivam Sundaram in 1978, or Prem Rog in 82, or Ram Teri Ganga Maili in 1985. And at the same time, in the same year of 1973, we have another phenomena coming up with Gen Z, written by Salim Javed, made by Prakash Mehra, the character of angry young man played by none other than Amitabh Bachchan, making it a hallmark of of that era. Uh, and the decade of the 1970s again was one of the most dramatic decades of independent India, where India was almost at the verge of economic collapse. The hollowness of government's promise of poverty eradication, Garibi Hatao, Indra Lao, uh, the hollowness of that promise was showing up. There was frustration among the youth, um, pervasive politics, and there was financial corruption all across. So this was again a very interesting time to put a film like Duvidha, for example, into perspective, where it has nothing to do with these political upheavals that were happening in the nation. There's no angry young man coming up and saving, Lachi from the ghost or something like that. It's about that woman. Woman is at the forefront, and that lone woman is what I call the angry young man, angry young woman. The creation of angry young woman takes place with film like Duvidha. So that's what I wanted to share, and I hope that you all have watched the film, and I hope that you also will watch Siddheshwari by Manikal, and after that, please do watch Dhrupad, which is a documentary by Manikal on the art of Dhrupad. And do read his essay on Indian miniature paintings called "Seen from Nowhere," if I remember it correctly. It's available on the net for free. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ishan, for your analysis, into which you brought in so many other films and filmmakers, and also Money calls other artistic interests like music and painting. It's the film is now open for discussion. Uh, before someone comes in, okay, Gaurav Mandal. Yeah, please go ahead. You have unmuted. Gaurav Mandal, would you like to say something?
Yeah, thanks, ma'am. Thanks,
Yeah,
Ishan. It
yeah.
was a beautiful session. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah, yeah. It was a beautiful session. And Ishan, you were only 23, and the film was of 1973. I was not also born. I am now 48. I was not also born. And you have the analysis. And actually, yesterday night I just so seen the film in the YouTube because I've seen Pahli, but this film I have really not seen it. And Money Call was a discovery for me. And through you, I seen the film again, seen the film for the first time, and your analysis were very knowledgeable, and I really appreciate. And this is the first time I'm interacting with you, and I have seen you a lot of ads from the for site visit or the historical places in Mumbai, and I believe someday we'll meet again in Mumbai, some places. Yeah, and your
Thank you.
Basudas
Thank
Bombay is upcoming, I think.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Hope if I have time, I will surely meet you. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Ishan. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
ma'am.
you. Thank you,
Thanks.
Gaurav. Thank you. Yeah. Ishan, would you like to say something about the formal features of Duvida? For instance, the how it is structured around voiceover narrative and the interior monologues of the three characters, and this this contrast between the woman's silence and how she speaks quite freely about oppression and all that in the voice, so in the monologue, in the interior monologue. So that I thought was interesting. And also, along with the characters, there is a lot of detailing of the landscape, beautiful cinematography in which one can get to see the landscape of Rajasthan, and the food and all of that. Those kind of details I thought was also very interesting. And I think you have already spoken about the close-up shots. There are several close-up shots of the woman, which really show us the emotion, on the face of the woman. So these are just. I'm sorry, because I was busy, I couldn't watch the film again. I had watched it long back, and this is as much as I can recall.
No, no, your queries and your comments are really well put because first of all, the close-ups, he always uses close-ups in his cinema. You see this in Uski Roti, you see this in this
Hmm.
film, even his documentaries, as I mentioned, Drupad and Siddheshwari, you clearly see his use of close-ups rather than long shots and other kind of cinematic devices, which I think is more to do with the with showing the alienation of the character, where he only focuses on them and their thought process, and then you listen to the monologue, you find them only there and see the isolation of the character from other beings. I think this has to do with his training as a musician, where in the alap you kind of
Yes.
improvise the rag
Yeah.
and you
And
take a
it's
long
also a
time.
solo. Alap is also a solo.
Yeah,
There is no tabla and other instruments when the alap is being,
you are, yeah, you are
yeah,
self reflecting on the raga
yeah,
and you are trying to expand it beautifully. For me, it was a very slow film, and all Money Call films are very slow.
Yes.
Uh, they don't. He doesn't want to make it fast. He wants. He takes time to explore every sense of the character, and that's what makes him different from, say, Kumar Shahani and others. One similarity that I see with both Kumar Shahani and Money Call is the kind of dialogue delivery and the lack of theatrics in the characters. They are very bland in the sense of cinema. They are not theatrical. They are saying they don't employ any kind of voice modulations in their dialogue deliveries. And I was speaking to a film actor, I won't name him. He mentioned that, it is because the filmmakers were lazy to ask the actors to, I think, to put up theatrics and to show. But that's not the case. I think this is another level of art which comes with more of philosophy, that you become quieter. You do not want to show off. You just want to keep it low and deep. So I think that what differentiates Manikal and Kumar Shahani from other parallel filmmakers.
Right. Any other comments, questions? Yes, Nikhila?
Yeah, thanks, Ishan, for asking us to watch this film, and that too at short notice, and doing it very well. So thanks for bringing the other films of the 70s and kind of placing it also in the context of new cinema of the period and so on. Geeta was talking about form, the extreme close-ups, which kind of just bring the color and not the form, to our visibility. So we get just a sense of color and texture, when it's such an extreme close-up shot. And also the very striking aspects, like you said in Uski Roti, I mean, there is movement in the frame, but it is almost a static camera. So till she moves from one end of the frame to the other, we just meditate. And so we are supposed to kind of feel time. So through watching something like, because we're supposed to feel the excruciating pain of the weight. Here, it is the freeze frames. As you said, they remind us so much about, paintings. And right from the beginning, the kind of the corner where there is a lit lamp to the freeze frames with the voiceover in the background narrating the story. Also, it's all, as you said, you said it is understated, but also it is very ambiguous. So much of the narrative, the narration is kind of, there is no attempt to explain too much. For instance, at one point, she says, if the father-in-law had asked me, maybe if a man had asked me, I would have had to tell him that, this or that. But when it's a woman, then what can I say? So what does it even mean, right? So there is no attempt to explain much, even the visuals. So generally, with a film like this, it is the verbal narration which is kind of anchoring the visuals, because the visuals don't seem to convey too much of the narrative. They convey other things, but not necessarily too much of the narrative. For instance, in the last bit, when we see the shepherd looking just looking around. So is he agitated by his act? Is he wondering whether he's done the right or not? What are we supposed to make out of him looking all over the place? The narrative does not tell us, and it leaves things open, ambiguous. Also, when the voiceover says, that her eyes were vacant in the end, that her eyes were vacant and her steps were heavy. So that is the only thing. But otherwise, on the actor's face, there is no expression at all. So in terms of, a certain kind of discordancy between the visual and the narration. So the narration moves, but the visuals are still more often than not. So this kind of discordancy is, what seems to take, is what seems to give us a sense of the story. But I think it's not so much getting the story as much as getting a certain mood, a certain emotion that, with this palette of largely reds, yellows, whites, and now and then blues. We are just supposed to get a mood change and emotion change, but otherwise there is so little, else for us to get by way of, so it's not a melodrama, it's not a social realist film. So it's more like kind of, investing ourselves into the film as we kind of glean the emotion from it. Also, so this is one aspect, the way in which form works. So why, if in Uski Roti it was like we were supposed to get the pain of weight, here through the freeze frames, it is almost as if life has stood still. So there's nothing else to look forward to, or so we just meditate on the frames and the visuals in the frames. Also, since you mentioned Paheli, and since this is a folk story, Manikaul references Vijaydan Deta's folk collection. Paheli does not bother to do that. It is, I would think, given the time that it came, it is more part of this, this sequence of marriage films that came. So, like Hum Aapke Hai Kaun, Dilwale Dulhania. So it's more a kind of yet another marriage film. Also, the resolution there, given that it is Shah Rukh Khan, and not this kind of an obscure actor. So given that there is a star playing this, so there is a different kind of, I don't want to give away too much, but there is a different way in which the film resolves these two men in her life conflict. And the other film play which this has gone into is also Nagamandala, Girish Karnad's play, and in a somewhat different way, but the folk story has taken different forms. So a man coming back in the form of, who is not the husband, coming back in the form of the husband. So this is a trope that is common to all these three films. So thanks for reminding us of all these intertextual references. And yes, this is quite a film by itself. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Any other comments, questions? Yes,
Hello.
Pallav. Yes,
Hello.
Pallav.
Yeah. We have first of all, thank you, Eshan, for the discussion. It was a great film, and the discussion has been great so far. We have talked a lot about the quietness in the whole film, in its visual depiction, in its audio, and the narrative. The quietness also, I think, comes through in the story and the politics of the film. So when it comes to let's say when someone wants to present a feminist message, or like wants to show like abuse, it is often depicted in like more visible, more bombastic, more like uh, a stronger way. But what we see in this film is also the abuse, but it's kind of a quiet abuse, as well as what happens after the ghost presents itself to the bride is a kind of a quiet rebellion, right? So that's something which needs to be focused on, because it's more likely you know that someone would be suffering from a quiet abuse such as this. It won't be visible to anyone, and I think this film does a great job in showcasing this as something something terrible is happening to the bride, and not it doesn't have to resort to, let's say, violence, or any kind of loud actions, right? So that's what I was thinking. Also, Ishan, a question. You mentioned earlier in classical music, the waiting period between, and then you mentioned two terms which I
Some or
forgot,
Visham.
Sam and Visha, right? Can you explain that a little bit, because I know nothing, next to nothing about music, and
सम और
maybe
विषम के बारे में तो मुझे भी ज्यादा पता नहीं है, लेकिन इट इज इन द रागा देयर इज अ सम, और जब आप आलाप लेते हैं तो दो सुर हैं उनके बीच का आई थिंक जो टाइम है,
right,
जब आप उसको इफ यू एक्सप्लोर दैट स्वर, then I
right,
think that's from where you start and where you end. That's Sam and Visham.
okay,
And on the question of this intrinsic oppression, which is not spoken out but it is felt within, uh, this is true for any kind of emotion, because Mani Kaul in his life also read Sanskrit, and he was a good scholar, a brilliant scholar of Sanskrit aesthetics for a long time. And all kind of rasas, navrasas, if you read, they can be extrinsic or intrinsic. You can, in the case of anger, it's much visual. If you see anger, it could be violent, like the angry young man in Zanjeer, Vijay Khanna, or in Agnipath, or it could be intrinsic, like say Albert Pinto ko Gussa Kyun Aata Hai by Saeed Mirza, where the lead is also an angry young man, Nasiruddin Shah, but he is not violent. So likewise with suppression, and again the society is patriarchal, where women are not supposed to speak out. Women are, in the film you see her in the parda all the time, the lead. So that parda is the kind of wall that she breaks in the end when she speaks out.
right,
Before that, she is trying to maintain the family's reputation or things like that, while inherently rebelling against the norms and maintaining a relationship with the truth. So I think that's the case with his dealings with Sanskrit. I think proved to be instrumental in the film.
right, yeah.
Thank you, Pallav, for your intervention. Anyone else? Ajanta says, thank you, Eshan and TFO, for a wonderful discussion. Sorry, I have to log off early tonight. There is a similarity in story between Ashad Ka Ek Din and Duvidha, right? So there seems to be some kind of a fascination for this triangular love story that Money Call seems to have, which is quite a common and very, and frequently explored theme in popular cinema as well. So there is that kind of engagement with a theme from popular cinema. But of course, these are from literature, that is from Mohan Rakesh's play, and this is from Vijay, Deta.
Vijay Dandita, yes.
Vijay Deta, right. So that is something that struck me now.
Yeah, he was. I think that's because of his love for especially mythology. Mohan Rakesh's story Ashad Ka Ek Din is based on Kalidas's love story, and
Yeah.
it's a triangular love story that you see later on, or maybe in Aag Thi, or Raj Kapoor, Dilip Kumar, and Nargis. I think it was Arzu, if I remember correctly, Arzu or
Or
something.
even Sangam.
Sangam. So this kind of triangular relations, I think, is always there in
Yes.
Indian cinema. But this is not melodramatic, as
No.
Nicola ma'am
This is
also pointed
this
out.
is a completely different
Yeah,
film
completely different
aesthetic, right?
exploration.
The aesthetic itself is different. So there's no question of of melodramatic elements in this. Any
Also,
other?
yeah, also I was just thinking this is more like I mean a critique of the patriarchy also in the sense of the father making such unreasonable demands and the son fulfilling them, both the sons actually. So one son deciding to go the day after, and the ghost giving him the 5 gold coins to keep him happy. So it's also in that sense, like all your Dasharathas and these fathers and father figures who make these kinds of demands. So it's also a way of preventing the cohabitation of the son with his wife. So in a way, there is also kind of as the A.K. Ramanujan says, a kind of reverse Oedipal Oedipal complex at work here. Not that the son wants to eliminate the father, but the father wants to have the son out of the way, kind of a thing. So you can see that at work here as well, I thought.
True.
And I just watched, as I said, the Separation by Asghar Farhidi, and this is whole complex relations between the child and the parent is again reinforced in that film. So if anybody wishes to see Iranian films, they are full of these contradictions within the relationships.
We have discussed Separation on TFO.
Oh wow, that's a brilliant film.
Yeah. We had an Iranian film festival. So in that we had discussed. Any other? Madhurima, would you like to say something? Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Eshan, for recommending the film. It was a really nice film. I really enjoyed watching it. I watched it twice. First, it was only in Hindi. I could not understand many things. Then after the link was shared, I watched it in the subtitles. I just want to add like 2, 3 points related to the narrative because I have not really watched any other film by Mani Kaul. So the first point that is already discussed is the mix of narrative voices, the interplay of different narrative techniques. It almost reminded me of Bakhtin's idea of polyphonic narrative. So that was really interesting. The next is how you have discussed that this lachi, or the woman's act of choosing the ghost, is almost an act of rebel or revenge against patriarchy. But I would also say that this is very interesting because she actually manipulates patriarchal ideology to rebel against it. When she says that if she is unable to stop her husband from leaving, it is expected that she cannot stop a ghost. So she is not directly saying that I am trying to rebel against this ideology of patriarchy. Rather, she is manipulating patriarchy in a very clever manner. And I felt to some extent through her internal monologues that her narrative technique is quite an unreliable one, because she directs the audience to multiple things without really saying anything. And sometimes she even says things which are quite meaningless, like what Nikhila ma'am pointed out, which actually obstructs our understanding of her psyche, what she is actually thinking. And the omniscient narrator, of course, at the end says that after the ghost is killed, she feels light or something. But there is nothing that she says. She says something like, how far can one hold on to a dream? How far its roots can go? So the aesthetic of portraying it is very interesting. And the other thing is her relationship with the ghost. It is in striking contrast to her relationship with her husband, because in her relationship with the ghost, her agency is portrayed. And how that is portrayed is very interesting, because her agency is not portrayed through direct dialogues or conversations. It is portrayed through subtle gestures of love or her narration of the passing of 4 years, which I found very interesting. And the last point is when the ghost and the husband, they were both taken to resolve the matter. Then this husband asked that, "Who are you?" or something like that. And after that, he said that, "Stop all this nonsense. Tell me whether you married her or not." And this ghost's idea of questioning the idea of love, and especially here, since here the idea of sexual love is attached, and questioning this idea of sexual love and dissociating it from the socio-legal institution like marriage, that is a quite significant one, considering that it was released in 1970s, and it is done without really stating anything. It is done through subtly. So I really find the film to be very interesting. So thank you for recommending the film, and thank you for the discussion.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you so much, Madhurima, for that comment. And I think you have to also mention that it's a child bride. It's a 17-year-old girl, uh, trying to find a way. The kind of questions she would be interested in. So if you are trying to understand psychology of the character, you have to also take their age into consideration, and kind of nonsensical questions come up when you are that age of my age. So I think it's much to do with the age and the kind of settings the character grew up in and the character is faced. So yeah, we all are very complex figures, and what Mani calls kind of cinema is it challenges those complexities in their own ways that might look nonsensical to a lot of people, because uh, some of them are really deeply philosophical dealings. As somebody mentioned, the Oedipus complex issue. It's a deeply psychological uh, issue or a term that is associated. So I think that's much to do with Manikal's own understanding of the medium of cinema. And somebody earlier mentioned how they were not preaching the audience anything. They were making films for themselves, and that's what my conversations with most of them told me whenever I spoke to Kumar Shahni or others. One thing that they always mention is we never make film for the audience. We make film for ourselves. So I think they are also self-reflecting. They are also the film movement, the new film movement emerged in the 70s, as you know. This was the age when the common people, common man was disillusioned with the government's policies, Garibi Hatao, Love, kind of thing, as I mentioned. So this was the age of confusion. And I think something is reflected in cinema, because cinema again acts as a mirror to society. I might be wrong, I might be just blabbering stuff, but these are the kind of things that come to me as a student of history when I relate cinema with society and the time when this cinema was being produced.
Yeah, thank you, Eshan. Any other? Yes.
No, Pallav has, I'll comment later. Go
Yes,
ahead.
Pallav.
Okay, yeah. So Madhurima, it's this the way you described, the expression of the bride. It is a very feminine expression, or rather a very, like anti-patriarchal expression, where within patriarchy you need, like, there is an expectation of hierarchy, or you know like abiding by the rules, and making, like, the overemphasis on rationality and law, right? And then you have something expressed in a very fluid way, something expressed in a way that doesn't have to make sense, doesn't insist on uh, making sense. And then on the other hand, you have the male characters in the story, as well as the narrator, explaining what it is, like, speaking in objective terms. The groom as well, beholden to the horoscope. Not, it's not called a horoscope, but whatever the auspicious dates are, right? Like, he's beholden to that. Like, that fits in the hierarchy of the world he's living in, and he's going to follow it to the T, right? So I think that's something that comes through, with the way, of course, being, a 17-year-old bride, but also being a woman, it comes through in that way. That's all I was thinking. But yeah, that's it.
I think
But in her own, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead, Geeta.
In her own quiet way, she's also defiant. Like when she's coming in the cart and he says people will laugh at you if you get off and pluck those berries. She says, Hasne do, let them laugh. And in a very, quiet, matter of fact way, which I thought was very, like courageous of her, given her, socio-cultural milieu.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to say, that given her position, her act of fighting against patriarchy, that was very practical one. Because she's actually manipulating patriarchal ideology to go against it. And also her unreliability, it gives her a position to use this manipulation. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Nikhila, yes. Please.
No, I was just kind of making a similar point, that is to emphasize that it's a product of the technique of narration, both through the voiceover, what it says, what the words that are ostensibly spoken by the character actually. Sometimes the narration is such that the voiceover and the characters' dialogues sometimes merge with each other. So there is no distinct voiceover and the narratorial perspective coming through. Though at times there is a narrator, he is saying certain things. Sometimes the woman herself, I don't know if she has a name. Eshan, you called her Lachi, but I don't know if she has a
Formally
name.
not in the film. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, in the film, it's not, neither the bride nor the bridegroom's name is.
nobody's name is
Yeah,
mentioned.
no names are there. Yes.
Yeah. So that's what. So she takes on narratorial function, and that's where I think what Madhurima was pointing to, that it's not very clear. She I mean, we can only guess through indirection and misdirection. There is nothing, that we can say for sure this is what she means. So even as she manipulates within her situation as a character, she's also manipulating as a narrator. So that's what I just wanted to reiterate, this point from what Madhurima was saying. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's the only way how you can uh, use your agency in a restricted space by manipulating the obvious. I think that's how the things are in any form.
Any other interventions? Any questions, comments? Okay. Yes, Tarkeshwar, would you like to say something?
Nothing, I just landed.
Just to say that he's landed.
Yeah. Actually, I knew he has just joined. Yes. Okay. If there are no more comments, questions, we will end the session here. Thank you very much, Eshan. And thank you all for logging in. Good night and have a nice Sunday.
And hopefully,
Thank you.
Ishan, you will
Thank you.
come
Good
back
night.
with the other promised film.
Yes, there are so many films in my mind that we should
No,
of
the one that
young filmmakers.
the
And
one that we should have done today.
yes.
So
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah.
we'll be able to manage the
Yeah, so
makers.
if you all say, I'll speak to the producer and we can fix 30th December for that discussion.
What do you say, Geeta?
Yeah, sure. If it can work, fine, perfect.
Okay, so let me speak to them be after this call and I'll just confirm and let you know.
Okay.